Hello, everyone, and welcome to our live Q&A session. My name is Natalie, and I am here with Minna today. She will be answering all of your solo 401k and self-directed IRA questions. We will start answering those questions shortly, but if there are any additional questions, please type them up in the chat. But I just want to add that our next Q&A session will be on October 9th. It's a Monday. It'll be at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. I just briefly want to introduce Minna before she starts answering questions. Minna is our Senior Account Manager at Sense Financial, and she directs the processing of retirement plans. She assists and partners with clients in the process of creating their self-directed retirement accounts with checkbook control. She also coordinates communication efforts towards educating clients, and she always strives to ensure that every client's goals are met with excellence and integrity. So thank you, Minna, for taking the time to answer questions in this session today.
You're so welcome. I'm looking forward to this time together.
Great. So we'll go ahead and jump into answering the questions. The first one is from Cynthia. Is there any way to convert a solo 401k, one based on self-employment, to one that is not based on self-employment?
Great question. If you want to have, or if you start with a solo 401k based on self-employment and would like to convert it to a 401k not based on self-employment, I would just note a couple things to keep in mind. Number one, a 401k is by definition an employer-sponsored plan. So you do need to have an employer in place to adopt a 401k. With a solo 401k, the employer just happens to be your self-employment. So if you are going from having a form of self-employment to not having a form of self-employment, unfortunately, you would not be eligible to continue with the solo 401k. Another option that you can consider is you could roll it over into a self-directed IRA. But again, you would not be able to remain eligible for a solo 401k if you don't have a form of self-employment.
Great. Okay, next question is from Edward. How do you add funds to a self-directed IRA?
If you have a self-directed IRA and would like to add funds, I assume you are referring to contributions. So a self-directed IRA is still a regular IRA, so it would be subject to the contribution limits. So for 2023, the contribution limits are $6,500 if you're under the age of 50, and if you're 50 and above, you get an additional $1,000 as a catch-up. So under the age of 50, you would be subject to the $6,500 contribution limit. 50 and above, it would be $7,500. So if you wanted to make that contribution to your self-directed IRA, it's a pretty simple process. You would just need to contact your self-directed IRA custodian, let them know that you wish to do a contribution. They'll walk you through their process. It typically involves a form which documents that it's a contribution, and then they'll assist you with putting those contribution funds into your self-directed IRA.
Okay, next question is from Stacy. I inherited a Roth IRA and a traditional IRA from a family member. What are my options with them?
Great question. So if you've inherited a traditional IRA and a Roth IRA, I would, again, give a couple things to consider. Number one, there is a difference between a spousal inherited IRA and a non-spousal inherited IRA. So if it is a spousal inherited IRA, in other words, from a spouse who has passed away, then I believe you would have the option to transfer it over to your own IRA. Second thing I would note, keep in mind that traditional IRA funds have to be transferred over to another traditional IRA, and Roth IRA funds, like an inherited Roth IRA funds, would have to be transferred over to a Roth IRA as well. So again, if it is inherited from a spouse, then those funds could be rolled over into your own IRA. It's a little bit different with a non-spousal inherited IRA. So in other words, if you inherit it from a family member who's not your spouse, you would still need to, again, transfer the traditional funds into a traditional IRA, but you'd have to have it go into an inherited IRA. So in other words, you could set up a traditional IRA, traditional inherited IRA for yourself, and then transfer those funds into it. And then same goes for the inherited Roth IRA. You could open up an inherited Roth IRA and transfer the funds into that. There's a couple different options. Feel free to reach out to us if you'd like to discuss more, or if you want to give us more detail, we can give you a more informed answer as well.
Okay. Next question is from Scott. I have a solo 401k with a sole proprietorship. And then, can I have a solo 401k with a sole proprietorship and then transfer it to an LLC later?
Got it. Great question. So if you have a solo 401k that's adopted by your sole proprietorship and would like to move it to an LLC, or so that the LLC becomes the adopting business at a later point, that's absolutely allowable. And we actually have a good number of our clients who do that. Like I mentioned before, a solo 401k is an employer-sponsored plan where the employer just happens to be your form of self-employment. And for a lot of folks, the form of self-employment does change over time. So you could start out as a sole proprietorship for your self-employment, and then later change to an LLC. And then for some clients, it goes the other way around, or the other way, where you go from an LLC to a sole proprietorship. Both are allowed as long as, again, that business represents your form of self-employment. So if that change takes place, feel free to reach out to us. What we would do then is we would amend your plan. The plan does need to be amended to reflect the current adopting business. So if that adopting business changes, let us know. We'll issue an amendment where it'll document the change of adopting business. One last thing to note, the solo 401k itself stays the same. So the plan name stays the same, the EIN of the 401k stays the same, but the change in adopting business does need to be reflected in the plan documents, and that's what we'd be happy to help you with.
Okay, our next question is what are the do's and don'ts when buying real estate with solo 401k funds?
If you are purchasing real estate with your solo 401k funds, that is a definite advantage of the solo 401k. And that's one of the top reasons why clients come to us, is because that's what they wish to do. So this is a great question. You do want to keep in mind a couple of do's and don'ts. So I would say first, under the category of do's, you do want to make sure that when you purchase real estate using your solo 401k, that the titling is in the name of your solo 401k, and then you're using the EIN of your 401k. So keep in mind that the 401k is a separate entity from you personally. So when you're purchasing that real estate using your solo 401k, you want to make sure that you use the information of the solo 401k on the title. Local title laws, you will want to check that with your title company as far as how exactly that's spelled out. You'll want to follow local title laws, but in general, you want it to be in the name of your 401k. So that's a definite do. In the category of don'ts to watch out for, that is a great question as well. You want to make sure that you are familiar with what the IRS terms as prohibited transactions. So in general, the IRS doesn't say what you can invest in. It's more that they give guidelines on what you cannot. And prohibited transactions is a big category for what you cannot use your retirement account like your solo 401k with. So under the category of prohibited transactions, the big one is using your solo 401k for investing with what the IRS deems as disqualified persons. So some examples of disqualified persons would be yourself. It would be a company that you own, and then relatives that like your spouse, and then like on the family tree, linear ones. So you would not be able to use your solo 401k, for example, for an investment related to your parents or to your kids. So that's something that you definitely want to watch out for. You don't want to use your solo 401k for any prohibited transactions that would endanger the status of your 401k. If you have any questions on that, anything specific, anything that you're trying to think through, feel free to reach out and we'd be happy to discuss.
Okay, next question is, how do I set up a checkbook IRA?
If you'd like to set up a checkbook IRA, there's a couple steps involved. So at the heart of it, the checkbook IRA is made up of two components, an LLC and an IRA. And that LLC is basically a single member special purpose LLC where the IRA is its member. So that IRA owns the LLC. And that structure is, again, also known as a checkbook IRA, IRA LLC. That structure helps give you checkbook control over your IRA funds. So as far as the process, we have it laid out as a several step process. For the first step, what we'll typically do is we'll establish that LLC for you. And it is a special purpose member LLC. We'll create the documents. We will file the LLC with the state of your choice. And then for the next step, we will assist you in setting up the custodial IRA account and the checking account for the LLC. And those two accounts will be linked with each other. So that's our step 2. And then step 3, we will assist you in funding that new IRA. Typically, it's funded through transfers from another IRA or rollovers from another employer-sponsored account, like a 401k that you might have with a former employer. You'll fund that new IRA, and then once the IRA is funded, it is pretty quickly moved into the LLC. And then once all the funds are in the LLC, you're pretty much good to go and you're ready to invest. You are named as the manager of the LLC, and that's kind of what gives you that structure where you can direct the assets of the LLC. So that's pretty much the process. We estimate for most clients that probably takes about 3 weeks. The piece that takes kind of the biggest amount of time is moving the funds over from another custodian. We work as quickly as we can here at Sense Financial, but once the request goes to the other custodian, it's pretty much up to them how quickly they take to process the request. It could be quick, it could be slow. They'll be able to kind of give you a better idea of that. But I would say in general, we estimate about 3 weeks to a month or so for the setup timeline. Hope that helps.
Okay, we do have a couple of more questions. This one is from Jacqueline. How soon after you open a solo 401k do you have to start using funds to invest?
Great question. So if you have a solo 401k set up, it's gone through the process of setup and it's all funded. There's no requirement as far as timeline as far as when you invest, but of course, it's set up for investing, and so it really does suit your interest or serve your best interest to invest in it as quickly as possible, just so that you can have your retirement accounts grow through that investing. If you have any questions on how to invest a solo 401k, or if you just want to kind of talk through some ideas, again, we're always here. Feel free to reach out and we'd be more than happy to discuss that with you.
Okay, this question is from Matilda. Any Roth 401ks available?
Good question. If you're interested in a Roth 401k, you're actually in luck. So Sense Financial, of course, we specialize in solo 401ks as far as one of our main products. And in the solo 401k that we establish for our clients, we always include the Roth component. So your solo 401k, if you have it set up, can do particular things related to the Roth. So for example, with your solo 401k, you can roll over funds from another Roth 401k. Just a quick note here, the Roth IRA is pretty much the only account that cannot be rolled over into a 401k, even if you have that Roth component. And that's just per IRS rules. They do not allow Roth IRAs to be rolled over into 401ks, even if they have Roth components as part of them. So with your solo 401k, you can roll over Roth 401k funds. You can also make Roth contributions to your solo 401k. Our plan does allow for that. And then lastly, and a somewhat popular choice is the solo 401k does allow for what's called an in-plan Roth conversion, where you roll funds into your solo 401k. And then once they're in your solo 401k, you can convert them to Roth. And that can be, in the timing and the amount of your choosing. You want to, of course, choose what makes sense for you. But again, just to answer that question, the solo 401k that we create here at Sense Financial does automatically include the Roth component.
Great. So those are all of the questions that were submitted, and it looks like we don't have any questions in the chat. So this does bring our session to an end. If you have questions that come in the meantime, please contact us, or if there was a question that wasn't fully answered, again, please feel free to contact us. We would love to further assist you. But thank you, Minna, once again, and thank you everyone for joining us today. We hope that you are able to join us at our next session, which again is going to be on Monday, October 9th. But other than that, I hope you all have a wonderful day.